Welcome to the Diesel Alliance community. You're just in time for our live Q&A. So whether you're catching this live and in color or the replays, we're excited you're here to help you succeed in all things. Well, actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Joe, Vinny, our resident experts. I'm going to bring you up to the stage. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your industry knowledge. We're going to help people succeed, get there a little faster, a little smoother, instead of figuring it out on their own. That's why we're here. So we've got some questions that we've brought in. If you have a question, you can throw it in the chat, and we will try to answer everyone's questions. No profanity, please. Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay.
And Vinny, you're up next.
My name is Joanna Byrne. I own Byrne Diesel Performance and Torch Motorsport Supply. I was a instructor of diesel service technology for 7 years and a program coordinator. And now I also, besides owning the shops, I am a certified dealer instructor for John Deere under South Plains Implement. And yeah, I'm here to help. I want to make the industry better.
I appreciate that you're here. Thank you so much. Vinny.
Vinnie Himes with Review Diesel. Been in the diesel industry for a couple decades now. Started out as a technician at a shop, just literally wrenching as a hobby for fun. Uh, Worked my way up, broke my back, and ended up in sales. Accidentally did decent at that, and went on to manage a shop here in Georgia and grew that shop from a very small two bay, two mechanic shop to a 22 bay 32,000 square foot shop. And it was a lot of fun. Learned a lot of stuff the hard way. And the Diesel Alliance is a place where we hope to make that hard way a little less hard, sharing our experiences and bringing friends in the industry onto the show to talk about how they fix problems along the way.
I love it. I love it. And the Diesel Alliance, if you don't already know, is where diesel enthusiasts and shop owners should come together to level up. Emphasis on together. So real conversations with people who have done it. They didn't read about it. They didn't watch a podcast about it. Who've been in the industry, who've got their hands dirty, literally and figuratively. We hope you help build connections that turn into opportunities. So from these live trainings, conversations like this, from digital courses, and even exclusive Minotaur trainings that's coming soon. We're really excited. If you're not a part of the community, visit thedieselalliance.com. Thedieselalliance.com. So let's jump in. You had some great questions that you shared, Joe. So we'll start with what's one of the biggest challenges or profit losses for that small shop owner? Where do they run into where money's going out of the door instead of into their pockets?
Do you have a specific who you want to answer?
I'll get both of you. Let's start with you, Joe.
I think the biggest right now, at least the biggest thing that I see is and this was actually a conversation I had yesterday, parts supply issues and parts pricing is like the biggest deal right now. We've had a pretty significant impact on the industry, not specifically in diesel, but across the industry as a whole from First Group. I think they're called First Group that own Fram collapsing, but they also like Rebestus and a bunch of the big aftermarket suppliers. And I see that affecting a lot of companies. Like I said, not specifically in diesel. But all in all, I think figuring out how to price not just parts markup, but also flag time and how to properly price things is like the biggest thing where money is running out the door. That's what
So
I see.
parts and pricing and where we run into some challenges. Quality of parts and properly pricing. Definitely want to dive into um, that quality of parts here in a little bit. Before I do, Vinny, where are you seeing money go the wrong way in that business?
Uh, COVID had a huge impact on that. You know, we all as shop managers, service writers, what have you, we got used to good quality parts. We took them for granted for many, many years. And we had our go-tos. And when COVID happened, those go-tos, those manufacturers stopped producing product. The Rust Belt, you know, Michigan, that entire state shut down for years during COVID. And that's where a lot of good quality made in America parts came from. And so those parts got phased out. And that side of the market got invaded by cheap Chinese knockoffs in very similar boxes. And so where we were comfortable selling a product at 20-30% profit margin for many years because we knew or we were experiencing the fact that that part probably wasn't going to fail for a very long time, we were happy selling it at that profit margin. Now we've got these parts that have invaded the market that are very poor quality. They look maybe similar, they feel similar, but they're just not made out of the same quality materials. And so a lot more warranty issues. So you've got to account for those warranty issues when you sell that product. So where 30% profit margin maybe worked years past, you got to double that now because you almost are guaranteed that that part's going to come back. People can get ahead of that. They'll save themselves and their customers a lot of headaches and heartaches.
So I'm hearing the quality of parts isn't just a reputation issue, it's a warranty issue. It's causing headaches, it's causing customer trust. And I know that's going to trickle down in other areas of the business. So what advice would you have for someone? Well, you said one, double the margin. What else can they do? Right, we're trying to run a profitable business here, to combat that.
Educate the customer. And I did, and I had to do that because the customer would come in, they would get an estimate from me. And then, as any intelligent human being should do, shop around, take it to another shop, take it to another shop, take it to another shop, and then come back, like, hey, you guys are the biggest name in town. Why are you, double, if not three times more than these other two shops? Well, for one, we've been in business for 17 years and they've been in business for 7 months. So they haven't experienced what we've experienced. And when that part fails, what do you expect of me as the shop manager? Do you want me to send a rollback for free to pick up your truck and take your family to a hotel? Do you want me to get your truck ahead of everybody else at the shop for this warranty issue that you feel is very important to you and you should have priority over everybody else that's got a truck in our shop? So you have to have that conversation with the customer because they don't know. They're the customer. You don't walk into Walmart and understand how Walmart stocks their shelves and how Walmart staffs their stores. So me as the service writer or the manager of the business talking to the customer, I have to educate you and I have to have that conversation and allow you to purchase the experience that you want to purchase. Maybe you don't care about my double profit margin and my extra couple hours of labor. So you take it to the other shop. And if you don't have that conversation, the customer can't make that choice.
I love that. Educating the customer. It's obvious when you say it out loud, but I know there's opportunities for all of our us to improve. Joe, where do you see where we can better navigate this parts crisis?
I back Vinny up 100% on education, but also too, I think it's making sure that we know who we're buying the parts from. I again, conversation I had yesterday with someone that I know that is also a tech. He works in the heavy equipment side, but he's asking me questions about parts for a pickup truck, for his personal pickup truck. And I said, look, I don't know that company. I don't know who's making their parts. I can't find who owns them. And I've never seen them in an event. I said, I'm not saying you shouldn't spend money with them, but here's another company that makes exactly the same product that I know somebody that works there. I know it's an American made product. Why wouldn't you spend the money with them? And, he's like, well, I want a good deal on parts. And this is, the answer we always get when you start talking about, spending money on parts is, well, I want a good deal. And I call it the Amazon effect. Right. So we want it right now for half the price. And then we want the same quality, and you can't, that's not an option. And, I told him, I said, how would you feel if your OEM that you work for gave you Chinese ripoff parts to put on a customer's machine under warranty? And he was like, oh, wait. And it totally changed the conversation because he knows that from a tech's point of view, but he's also looking at, it's spending a bunch of money on a truck. And so he's trying to budget. And so a lot of that is just talking about, hey, maybe let's check out these companies before you just order from them online.
That's simple, but I know we like to get things done quickly. That Amazon effect, right? We want it done the next day, and we skip steps. So I love that actionable advice. So let me ask you, one of my favorite quotes is saving money doesn't always save you money. And we touched on parts. Let's talk about hiring. Let's talk about, you mentioned the shop's been around for 17 years. What about that shop that's hiring their first or maybe second person? Maybe somebody they don't know, right? It's not a family or friend. What advice do you have for someone hiring that first person, that first tech? Go ahead, Vinny.
Um, yeah, yeah. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, go Vinny, and then I got some good stuff for you.
Well, the first thing, if I'm hiring a technician, the first thing that I would put in front of them is a very complicated diagnostics scenario. Um, Here's a check engine light. It very obviously says mass airflow sensor. Different year, make, and models of trucks and different manufacturers. I'll put it this way: Ford and General Motors do a much better job. Like if you're getting a mass airflow sensor code on a Duramax or a Power Stroke, there's a pretty good chance it's going to go back to the mass airflow sensor. On a Cummins platform, that's almost never going to be the case because the way that Cummins daisy chains their sensors in series on a CAN bus style system, you could have a bad sensor downstream backfeeding weird voltage to the mass airflow sensor, and you may have a bad AC compressor switch. So I would put that technician in a very complicated diagnostic situation, and hopefully they magically get it right. That's probably very, very, very unrealistic. They're most likely going to come back and tell you that it's a mass airflow sensor, but give them that education of look, man, you can't just go by the codes. You got to do the hard diag. You got to understand these systems. You got to dig into the trenches and figure out what's causing that code and not just throw parts at that problem. That is the number one problem in the diesel industry, and it's the number one things that gives shops a bad name.
Hmm. That's good. Thanks, Vinny. Joe, what you got? Oh, sorry, let
100.
me repeat the question.
Yeah.
When we're hiring a technician, what are we looking for besides just that hourly range?
Well, one, I totally 100% back up doing hands-on in interviews, especially for a hands-on job. That just seems like a give me. One of the things that I saw a lot, when I was teaching and I worked with our local shops and dealers to try to help them place students coming out of the program, is I saw not just in them hiring incoming new technicians that they had to train, but also them hiring people that had experience. In a position like that, you know a lot of people in the area. And what I saw is there was a lot of just hiring people and seeing if they worked out instead of actually doing some research on them. They weren't asking for hands-on, give us a demonstration, and they weren't checking references. And I know that sounds like crazy, but people like, oh, you have 5 references, and they don't check them. And I know, and the number of times that I have actually taken a resume, and because I also I handled hiring in positions in my job as a teacher. We're not going to talk about that, but anyways, and I'd call references, and it would be a bad phone number. The person on the other end wasn't someone they'd ever worked with, or the response that you got was clearly scripted, and that's assuming you got an answer on references at all, because a lot of times it would just go to voicemail and no one would ever call me back. So I think, providing good references, and I know sometimes people don't have references. I understand that, especially when maybe they're moving to a new area or whatever, but you should be able to provide some sort of proof. And that's the biggest thing, is check references. Um, for me, a red flag in hiring is if you interview someone and you ask them about their references and they kind of hem and haw around and they go, well, I don't really have any good references. That's a huge red flag to me, because that tells me either they're afraid of what someone's going to say about them, they've lied about their work history. That's very common, by the way. Um, or there's something there in the background they don't want you to know as a potential employer. So that's my biggest thing. Check references. That seems like crazy advice, but the number of people that don't blows my mind.
Man, that's good. So check your references. Again, not revolutionary, not even expensive, but that can be uh the difference between a great month or a bad month. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that. So let's keep going on hiring. When do you hire that first non-tech? That could be front office, that could be parts, not parts, but service, customer service, IT. What is something I should look for? I'm a shop owner, I'm looking to grow, where I need to make some hires. Joe, you're on a roll. Keep going.
Um, I think the big thing is when you're looking at filling positions, depending on what you need, right? So we know everybody immediately thinks service writer, or they think maybe just front desk personnel. Typically, that kind of rolls into the same person a lot of times, especially when a shop's small. I think it's what role do you need to fill most? Um, I see a lot of small companies jumping on. They're going to hire somebody to do their social media marketing for them, but they really needed to spend. They need someone answering the phone at the front desk and greeting customers. So I think it's being kind of realistic on what you need and your gain on or your return on investment, ROI. We're talking bottom line business here, like ROI. What's your return on investment in this position? And how is that going to affect how your shop operates? Because I think the first person that you should hire is someone that streamlines what you're doing so that your current operation runs smoother.
So your current operation runs smoother. I think that's a good check. But I've been running this myself for the longest. My brother helps me, my cousin, my best friend's been helping me. I don't know what I need. Who do I call? Or what do I put an ad out for, on Indeed or ZipRecruiter? Vinny?
First thing any diesel shop owner should do is hire a service writer. The first thing, before you buy your first toolbox, before the first truck rolls in. And the reason I say that is because I've worked in many diesel shops over the years, and what happens is your clientele become addicted to the first person they deal with in that business. So if the diesel shop owner is trying to do the service writer position themselves, even for 6 months, once you get up and rolling and you become successful, if you become successful, the people that encountered your business for that first 6 months are now addicted to you, and they only want to deal with you. So you're no longer building, running, structuring, and operating your business. You're stuck up front dealing with Farmer John, and he refuses to talk to the service writer that you just hired because he's addicted to you. You're the guy that he trusts. You're the guy that he dealt with last time. You're the only guy that he wants to deal with. It took me 2 years to push the last shop owner out of the way to the point where I could become the face of the business and allow him to do what he was supposed to be doing, which is running the business, so that I could do the service writing and the management of the front of the business. Once people are addicted to that, it's almost impossible to talk them out of dealing with somebody new. So order the service writer right away, and stay in the back of the house and do what you need to do as the business owner.
I'll back
Thanks.
that up, and I'll even say that is the reason why you see service truck guys, customers follow them when they leave one location, go to a different dealer, they go to a different shop, because they've always dealt with the service truck guy at their farm, at their roadside location, at their fleet location, and that guy goes somewhere else, and the customers go with him.
That important. Okay. So the first hire should be a service writer. I love it. Now, who would you say is the hardest role to hire for, Joe?
I'm gonna really honestly, I'm gonna say the service writer's a hard role. You have to have somebody that's personable. They've got soft skills. They can communicate with the techs without pissing them off, because we all know that there's always a little bit of a, especially if you get someone that's got dealership experience, they kind of carry some of that with them. And no hate thrown there. Like, I've got some psychological opinions about that. That's another conversation. But I think that's a really hard role to hire for. You're trying to hire someone that represents your company. They're again, like Vinny said, they're the face people see when they walk in. And I think that's a really hard role to fill. Someone that's going to fit your culture, that's going to get along with everybody, that has the right standards and the right knowledge base. Because, I think you could be a good service writer at tractors, but you're crap at cars.
Okay. So the most important person to hire is maybe also the most difficult, but you talked about giving that hands-on test, checking the reference, and hopefully you get pick a good person the first time. So we've talked about cutting those money leaks, talked about hiring those first one or two folks. Where do you see the next bottleneck happen as we grow? Vinny.
Space, the shop. We got we got cocky. We were in a two-bay diesel shop with two techs in the back. I'm up front attempting to be a service writer, pushing the owner out of that position, getting the customers to trust me. We had the opportunity to move into a 10,000 square foot shop. We were so naive and maybe a little bit arrogant at the time. Like, we will never outgrow this place. I'm not even arrogant. I guess that's pessimistic if you look at it that way. But, we functioned in a two bay shop for such a long period of time, 7 years. And then moving into that eight bay shop, it was just like, there's no way. Like, there's no way we can ever outgrow this. Like, we thrived in two bays for 7 years. We're in eight bays. We're set for the next decade and a half. And we outgrew it in 6 months. So if you think the building's big enough, double it. Especially if you're good. If you're the kind of business that's moving from a two bay shop into an eight bay shop, you're doing something right. You're doing something that people have seen. You've got customers coming from out of state. The eight bay shop is not going to cut it, double it. That killed us. We were stuck in a 5-year lease and we suffered financially. We suffered emotionally. We suffered psychologically because the customers are dropping trucks off and we could not get them in. And we went from never having a backlog to being 2 to 4 weeks on backlog. And that'll kill a diesel shop so fast. You will lose 50% of your clientele if you can't turn those trucks out same week.
That's a good metric. So you said we should be able to turn trucks out that same week. 5-day turnaround. Okay.
That's what the customer expects in most scenarios. If you've got an engine out, full rebuild, obviously the customer's going to be a little bit more understanding than the guy that you
Sure.
quoted 2.5 hours to swap out a turbo. All he knows is 2.5 hours. He drops his truck off. You give him an estimate. You give him a diagnostic. You'd say 2.5 hours of labor, X amount of parts. The customer's like, okay, well, I'll call tomorrow and find out if it's done. Now you're tying up your phone lines.
You ain't even got the
You're
parts
tying up
yet.
your service writer. Your service writer is bugging your technicians. They're getting mad at each other. You got to set that expectation up front. Hey, we're 2 weeks out. Are you okay to drop your truck off? Absolutely. At least you set the standard. You set a precedent. If your service writer can't do that for your business, find a new service writer.
Now, I think that's pretty valid. I mean, all of my mentors coming up have always said, don't overpromise. Always underpromise and overdeliver. And that's how you keep customers, and that's how you make customers happy, because it just takes one time where you do it the other way and you're in trouble. But if you've got somebody that's had a good experience with you over and over again, something happens, it's not a huge crisis to them because they already have a high quality expectation from you. And so, maybe you've got a parts delay that messes you up. They don't take it as badly. Um, I think it's worth, Vinny made a great point. He said 5-year lease. And this is something that I'm dealing with on a personal level right now, is trying not to get myself locked into a long-term lease, because I know I'm growing. I'm going to outgrow where I'm at. And so I think that's something that's worth mentioning when we talk about this, is a lot of people do lease their shops. Be very careful about your terms of lease negotiation. Um, and I'm going to point one out where I'm at. It is a huge thing here. It's a very reasonable price lease. You get the paperwork and you are responsible for paying for the property taxes on top of the lease. And that is a absolute financial nightmare. You have to watch that paperwork and stuff there. But that's something that's hugely popular where I'm at. And people are signing up for that, which
Whoa, let's pause right there. I think you said it so casually, but I think that's a really big what's one of those small things that could be a big problem. So, okay, picture this. You're growing, your reputation is doing well in the community. People are recommending you. You're like, man, we need some more space. We need some more bays. So you're looking at a location. Like Vinny said, they moved from 2 to 5, and you're looking at a lease. So one red flag you mentioned was the property taxes. What else are we looking for? What other Red flags are we looking out for? What are best practices do we need to make sure we're setting our business up for success and not painting ourselves into a corner?
Well, I think Vinny's example is great. I would avoid locking myself into a 5-year lease. That seems crazy. If I look at where I was 2 years ago and look at where I want to be 2 years in the future, if I was locked into a 5-year lease, I'd have my hands tied.
So are you thinking year to year? What am
I
I
think
asking the
I think
property owner?
it's I think it's going to really depend on one, where you're at, two, your growth, three, your budget. I mean, these are all things people should be considering. But
Should be.
also, what I mean, I guess it's worth pointing out, right? But you know, and I think where you're at is a big one. That's a thing here. That's why I bring up the property tax thing here. There are some places that I looked at leasing 2 years ago that were not in the city limits. Where I am is growing. They are now in the city limits. If I had signed a lease with them, I would now be paying city property taxes, not county. Right.
That's good.
So yeah. So I mean, and they in a couple of places I looked at, they were very reasonably priced and still are under the same realtor. But if I had signed up for that and taken that on, I would have gotten hit, not knowing the city was going to take that in with expansion. I would have gotten hit with property taxes. So I think those are things to consider that people don't think about. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but the jump in property tax to your annual expenses unexpectedly could really tank somebody, especially if they're trapped in a lease and they need to be in a bigger shop.
Thank you so much. Vinny, anything you add about choosing a location and things to look out for at leasing?
Yeah, make sure your shop's not buried. That was another thing that got us in trouble. We were so eager to get out of this little hole in the wall that we were stuck in at the time, but we were on a major thoroughfare. And so we had a ton of drive-by traffic, which we took massively for granted. And our second location was literally buried down a one-way dead-end road, city dump at the end of the road. Really, the only people going down there were going down there to dump trash or go to a funeral home, not our target market. A few people driving trash to the dump might be driving a diesel. It was very uncommon that somebody stopped in and was like, "Hey, I was just dropping trash at the dump and I saw your sign. I got a diesel truck." Like it happened, but not that often. We really struggled to reach new clientele. We maintained our old loyal clientele, and we inevitably grew through social media and taking advantage of free marketing avenues, but we lost all of that drive-by traffic. And so when we found our third location, that was my number one focus and goal, was to make sure we were not on one major thoroughfare, but at the intersection of two. It quadrupled the size and profit of our business being acquiring that drive-by traffic. So, we get narrow-minded. We're trying to solve one or two major problems. We need more space. Yes. All right, check it off. We got the square footage. We need more drive-through bays because trucks get abandoned in bays waiting for parts. All right, we got the drive-through bays. Boom, two major problems solved. We're at the end of a one-way dead-end street. Not once did any of us think about it, talk about it, discuss it. It was our Achilles heel for 5 years. We missed that drive-by walk-in traffic. So put that at the top of your checklist. If you're seeking out new space, make sure you have that drive-by traffic. It can be a blessing and a curse. Once again, educating the customer, having those conversations up front. We're 2 weeks out. Parts are on back order. We're going through a global pandemic. Make sure that you can deal with our backups, backlogs, but having that drive-by traffic is gold, man. It is gold. It's something marketing can never buy you.
I love that you said marketing because that's what we're going to talk about next. We talk about growth, but I want to say that's why we created the Diesel Alliance. Somebody's looking right now, maybe they're listening to this, hopefully before they move, and they're thinking about where they need to head to next. And you just saved someone a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of headaches. Thank you so much for sharing that. So someone's got a good location, they got a good service writer, they got text, they got space, and they're looking to grow. Listen, man, I got empty bays. We got to get some clients in here. How are we attracting new clients? Joe, what are we doing to get new customers through those doors?
The first thing, and this is the first thing in any marketing, is who's your target audience. And I know our knee jerk is people that own diesel trucks, but that's actually not 100% accurate. That's a little broad. One of the things that you're going to run into is we have an exiting demographic of boomers, and that is a very specific customer base, and they're a lot harder to reach just because of the nature of one, what they expect and their areas of interaction with social media and marketing and stuff like that. So, then you've got your Gen X, your millennials, your Gen Z, and of course we got Gen Alpha coming up. They're not really cruising around in trucks yet. But um so with those groups, even with the boomers, but with those groups specifically, if you kind of know what your target audience is, you can aim at that on social media and get a lot of traction. And I think we're going to talk a lot about social media marketing because that's really where it's at right now. Whether you're spending money or you're doing it for free, it doesn't matter if either way. I don't see a lot of people um, doing TV ads and radio ads, and maybe that's just where I'm at. But I don't see that generating a lot of income for people in our industry. Now, the more generalized automotive shops do that where I am, but I don't see. There is one exception. We had a diesel shop a couple of years ago that ran a series of radio ads saying they delete your truck. We won't talk about how that worked out for them. Uh,
All right,
yeah,
just
yeah.
just to be clear,
The
Diesel
EPA came
Alliance is not
knocking.
condoning
Yeah,
that
no,
business
they
practice.
they the EPA came knocking, and that was the end of that. But you know, the big thing is utilizing your connections and building kind of a community around your business. And I think we see that with a lot of shops have done that. For smaller shops that are trying to break out, that's actually really hard to do. It's a lot harder than you think. There's algorithm you have to work around. You have to make time to make content. And if you're not at the point where you have someone that's doing that specialized, it can be a lot of work. Um, so that's a whole nother talking point. But uh I think the big thing on marketing is picking your target audience and sticking to it. If you want to specialize in working on Cummins or you want to specialize in working on Power Stroke, that narrows down your target audience and that puts you where you can hit the groups, you can get on Reddit, you can work that way. But if you're trying to be a little bit broader, it kind of spreads you out a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it is a lot of work because you have to figure that out. And if you don't know who you're trying to market to specifically, like you're like, I want to market to millennials that farm. That's a pretty specific demographic, right? Um, and so that kind of narrows things down. So my biggest thing for marketing would be make sure you know who you're targeting and where they're at, because you can run ads all day long. If it's not getting in front of your demographic, then it's not going to do any good.
Okay, so pick a target demographic. When we talk about growing new clients, pick a target demographic, be specific. You said radio, TV, social media. What's one like where you recommend to start? Because there's lots of ways.
Social media,
Social media.
all the
Okay.
social media, like absolutely 100% social media. And I would say that regardless of what you're doing. Um, Mostly because look what we have in our pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I got mine
I
right here.
mean, exactly. And you have a lot of connection there, and then deciding where to one of the things that I don't suggest is trying to market on every social media platform. It Pick a couple
Hmm.
that have your target audience on them. That's why the target audience matters.
I love it. That's good stuff. Vinny, anything to add to that? How are we growing the business? How are we bringing in new trucks?
100% invest in your digital footprint. It's the only thing a business owner should be doing in this day and age. Uh, Billboards are out. Every radio's out. People are streaming. People are listening to podcasts. People get home. They're whipping their phones out. They're doom scrolling through Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. It's all free. It's all free. Claim your Google listing. Go in, start your business, claim it on Google, respond to Google reviews immediately. Whether good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. Respond. When these algorithms see an unresponsive business, your rating drops. The algorithm buries your business because you're unresponsive. You have to respond. Even if it's a bad review, respond. I'm sorry you had that uh, experience with us. Please give us another chance. Maybe I wasn't aware of what was going on at the shop that day. I care. I want to have the conversation. Please call me, personal cell phone number, email, whatever. Show that you give a crap because the algorithm cares if you give a crap. Um, Posting on Facebook once a day about your shop, what's going on, a hard diagnosis that you figured out, that's free. It shows your potential clientele that you care. Um, you know, the worst thing I hear going in to try and help a business grow is, hey, are you guys on Facebook? Ew, no, I hate Facebook. Well, guess where your clients are at?
On
All of them
Facebook.
are
Mhm.
on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you if your old clientele are dying off, that sucks to say, but that's reality. 3 out of 3 people die. That's a metric. You have to be looking for that next clientele that's coming up, and they may not be on Facebook, which is the only social media you like. You have to be on TikTok. If you don't want to be on TikTok pushing your company, get your teenager to push your company on TikTok. Like, this stuff is not rocket science, but saying that a form of social media is gross and you hate it will slow your business growth faster than anything else on this planet, because that is reality now. Everybody's got a supercomputer in their pocket. When their truck breaks down on the side of the interstate, I don't care if it's a flat tire or blown up injection pump, they're Googling diesel repair near me. Like, they type diesel and Google fills out the rest. Repair near me. And they click on the first one that pops up. And if you aren't present, you are not getting that customer. So invest in your digital footprint. It's free. It takes about 45 minutes a day to knock out 5 to 8 different social media platforms. I do it every single day. Um, and then be responsive. If somebody comments, turn your notifications on, make sure they get a reply right away, not an automated response. That sorry we missed you, we're currently closed. That dude's off to the next place. He's not even gonna, they're not even gonna send you a message 90% of the time. And so you just got to be present. It doesn't take that much time. If I'm not a 9 to 5 guy, that is such a slacker mentality to me. If something pops up at 10:30 and I'm awake, I respond immediately. Hey, I'm getting ready to go to bed. Please hit me up in the morning. Phone number, email, instant message, whatever. You just got to invest in that digital footprint. It will take your business to the moon.
You made a
And I
really
love
good
that
point with the
show.
Google search too.
We're gonna I love how you made it sound easy and there's actionable suggestions. But first, a word from our sponsor. This live Q&A is hosted and sponsored by the Diesel Alliance community, the space for professionals across light and duty diesel industry to connect and collaborate and support one another. So Vinny mentioned Google My Business. If you haven't heard of that, join the Diesel Alliance community at no cost to you and complete his course. He walks you through it step by step on how you can use Google to promote your business for free, make it easy to be found, and help you to get ahead of your competition in your area. So again, if you're listening to this and you haven't already, join the Diesel Alliance community today and tell a friend to tell a friend. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Got to shout out the sponsors.
No, that's awesome. You brought up the very thing about Google I was fixing to say was Vinny mentioned Google and your business, and then you did it in the sponsor deal. That was perfect. That's beautiful. It's synergy.
Thank you. That's why I'm here. Listen, I know I don't like social media, but I like making money. If no one knows your business exists, you're not going to make any money. So, Vinny, you said you spend about 45 minutes a day. You said get your teenagers to do it. Those are 2 great pieces of advice. Joe, you said don't do all of them, right? Pick 2 or 3. I think those are a great piece of advice. What, and I want to get both of you. So, Joe, what do you have to say to that shop owner? Maybe she's a little old school. Maybe she just doesn't feel like it. That doesn't want to touch social media.
I get it, but Vinny's 100% right. You have to have a digital footprint. There's no option. Unless your only customer base doesn't use the internet at all, If you don't have a digital footprint, you're losing out on customers. You might as well not exist. One of the big things, especially millennials and Gen Z, verify if a company is trustworthy based on whether they exist on the internet or not. And so if you don't have a verifiable footprint, then what's the point? Um, and I think that's where a lot of people are just like, oh, I just don't like the internet. I'm going to hire somebody to put together a website and they're going to I'm going to put up my Facebook page and I'm never touching any of this again. I have a business to run. And I don't think there's anything wrong with focusing on running your business. I do know when companies are really, really small, it's hard to focus on spending time on social media. It's overwhelming. Maybe there's also a lot of people who don't want to put their face on their business. They don't want to be the content creator of their business, which there's a lot of negative attitude towards influencers, and they don't want to be the influencer for their business. But you can market on social media without being an influencer. And so I think there's a little bit of a stigma there that people need to kind of not to sound mean, but eat your ego. You're trying to promote your business, just do it. And so yeah, it's hard. And you say maybe an older business owner, maybe they don't have the skill set for social media and using all that stuff. And I understand that. Hire somebody. Hire a Gen Z kid that's very creative and give them free reign. Go buy them, whatever equipment they want, some mics, some high quality mics, some stuff like that, and then cut them loose. And they will do some amazing things.
I love it. You don't have to be a social media influencer. You just have to tell people about your business. Tell them that you exist. Oh, Vinny, I can see you again. Awesome. What'd you do? So,
I think my camera just auto adjusted for the light.
shout out to technology. You
Right.
looked like Batman for a second. Anything you want to add to that social media wise? Again, we're not trying to win the Streamer University Award. We're just trying to let people know we exist. Any advice for someone that doesn't like social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Joanne said, hire somebody that does, and it doesn't have to be a full-time position. Just say, hey, I'll give you $500 a week. I need a post a day. I need you to stop by the shop, grab a little video, grab a couple photos, make a daily post, and then respond to it. If they do a really good job, your business should grow. And if your business is growing, turn that position into a full-time position. I've done that. I've helped companies remotely, just like, especially back in the day when nobody wanted to do Facebook, and I just full blown embraced it. And I knew in 2010 Facebook was going to be the way. And the company I was working with at the time, the owner didn't want anything to do with it. He hated it. He hated being in the limelight. He hated being on camera. I just started helping him. I mean, I was running a timber framing company at the time, but my wife was forcing me to do social media to promote my timber framing company. And then he mentioned he was struggling to grow his diesel business. And so I started doing diesel content for him in 2010, and it was just like, it got to the point where he was like, you can't not work for me. Like, I can't afford for you not to work for me full time. I went to work for him full time. I became the sales manager of that company for years. We grew that company to an Inc. 500. We were on the cover of Forbes magazine. I attribute 100% of that success and that growth to Facebook. And that's it. There was nothing else at the time that we were doing that, Google ads were Google ads, Google AdWords were just starting to become a thing. He was hopelessly addicted to Google AdWords, and they work. But it's an expense. It's a never-ending expense that revolves over and over every month. Social media content is free, and it creates the same thing. Facebook is now Googleable. So whatever you're putting on Facebook, Google bots are crawling those Facebook pages. They're finding that stuff. They're finding those keywords. They're sending people to you for free based off the content that you create. So you can pay for Google ads. You can pay for Facebook ads. I turn them off. I've trained my algorithm to only show me hunting ads, knives, guns, Bible studies. I only see what I want to see. So if you're paying for a Facebook ad, I'm not seeing it. I'm not the only one out there that's like that. So stop paying for the ads. Use the platform. It's free. Just get somebody to create the content. And when you see the value in them, make sure that you don't lose them.
We'll have to clip that chat. Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
So I want to throw something out here. You said like don't use Facebook. I'm going to say Meta because it's in Instagram too. Ads paying for them. I 100% agree with that. The biggest thing that I've done, I just finished. Actually, my thesis got published today. But right. But one of the things that I ran into in some of the experiments that I ran on ROI on Meta ads was I was not getting the response, and also I kept running into a problem where if you ran an ad through Meta instead of boosting directly through Facebook or directly through Instagram, if I went to Meta Business and ran it, it would run away with my budget. So I set a test budget. I said, you have $100 and you could spend $5 a day. It blew through $179 in 36 hours. That was not my budget. That was not what I set my budget. And I did it several times to see if it was me that I had my settings wrong. And I played with different settings and stuff. And every time I set a budget, it would blow through my budget in 24 to 36 hours. If I did it through Facebook or I did it through Instagram, I didn't have that issue. So there's something going on there, and maybe they'll fix it eventually. But it is that I feel like that's very predatory towards the people paying for those ads.
That's really great insight. I'm not an ads guy. My opinion, if I may hop in, there's so much you could do for free. Do that. And then pay a
Absolutely.
professional for ads if and when you want to run ads. I think that's wonderful advice. All right, we've talked about cash leaks. We've talked about hiring. We've talked about the first position to hire, the most important position to hire. We've talked about growth. We talked about location. We talked about marketing and social media. If this is what the Diesel Alliance community is about, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sharing your input. I've got one last question, and maybe this needs to be a part two because it's a big concept, but we've got the eyes, we've got the bays are full, we've got a good team. Where can we start adding additional revenue to the business? So short of just having more clients, where can we be more profitable?
Online sales. Online sales are literally a cash printing machine. If you don't want to have a big retail website, I've had companies that, they were tapped out. They couldn't grow anymore. Their shop was as big as it was going to be. They didn't want to hire any more technicians. Build a very simple retail sales website and just throw the basics on there, especially diesel specific, cold air intakes, tuner, exhaust. That is the first three things almost every diesel owner is going to purchase. A tuner, a programmer, a device that allows them to increase horsepower while towing, increase fuel economy. That's a consumer concern. You can throw a cold air intake, tuner, exhaust, and do it as like a package deal where the customer just gets on. They don't have to shop. Hey, we've done all the hard work for you. Here's the best tuner, intake, exhaust for your truck. It's $1,500. You add to cart. They process the order. Set yourself up with a wholesale distributor like Premier Performance, Turn 14 Distribution, or a couple of really good ones. You can even automate those shopping carts. So where you, like, if you feel like you don't have time to process orders, there's stuff like API in the industry now where that order can process through automatically. That is cash money. You've created a money printing machine. Maybe the customer doesn't have time to swing by the shop. They jump on your website. They grab a $1,500 package deal. 20% of that's profit. You just made money without having to answer a phone call. You made money without having to log onto a computer. You made money without having to hire a technician. You made money without having to do anything other than a one-time investment in that website. You can build a website like that for less than $10,000. So if you don't have a website, get a good web designer. Find somebody that can create that for you. Build a shopping cart. Have a credit card processing company tied to it. That's the most valuable employee you will ever have is a retail website.
Absolutely.
We might have to do a training on that one because that's so obvious out loud, but we get stuck on what we're touching with our hands, what we see with our eyes, and trading our hours for dollars. And you said something real powerful where you weren't even there to take the order. You didn't even have to answer the phone. So I love it. Joe, where can we add some profit to the business?
Vinny's got a great point. I'm 100% back that up. I will say, I do see, for me personally, I have a client who is a huge AMSOIL fan, and that's all her family runs in their vehicles and even their farm vehicles. And she kept saying, you should deal AMSOIL, you should deal AMSOIL. And I'm not saying AMSOIL is the only one. There's other really popular brands. I was shocked at the revenue that I have gotten from becoming an AMSOIL retailer. So I stock it on the shelf. I stock my popular stuff on the shelf. I have people come in and they don't come in for anything else. They stop by on Fridays and they pick up their oil for their weekend projects. And I think that that's a really great option for brands that you can't typically, that you have to order in, but you can do a retail option on. Like I said, I know Amsoil is one of them. We have a local Schaefer dealer does the same thing, and I know they do great revenue as well. So I think that's certainly something that you should look at if you have a customer base that's really interested in a specific brand that's popular like that. That's a great revenue thing too. And for me, I know they're coming on Friday afternoons, so that's what happens Friday afternoons is people come in and pick up oil.
I love it. Thank you both so much for sharing from your experience. And I also would be remiss if I didn't shout out Power Hungry Performance. And they've graciously offered to do a Minotaur training. So if you're interested in tuning and adding that as a list of services, that is a great place to do it right here in the Diesel Alliance community. One last word of advice as we say goodnight. Any last words of encouragement, business advice, warnings?
And I didn't even think of what you just said, but that is huge. Diesel tuning, custom tunes are a cult following to a fault. People buy a programmer. 10 people buy the same programmer. Let's use a hydro chip as example. It's easy, it's quick, it's cheap horsepower. It's the biggest bang for the buck you're ever going to get in the diesel industry as a programmer. You're adding 100 horsepower, 2 to 3 miles per gallon. Personal experience. Customers will get these things and they'll call back. I'm getting 25 miles a gallon. I am so happy you're happy. There's no freaking way you're getting 25 miles. I am so happy you're happy. Tell the whole world. We're not going to market it that way. Most diesel tuning devices are going to net you about 2 to 3 miles per gallon. If you got a really good running vehicle, if you don't have a good running vehicle, get it into a diesel shop, get it diagnosed. There's something wrong with it. But Minotaur tuning specifically, these people get these tuning devices and they get it in their head that they have to have custom tunes. For 20 years, I have argued with customers, not 20 years, for 10 years, I argued with customers, you don't need custom tunes. You have a stock truck, you have a cold air intake, an exhaust, you don't need custom tunes. But the forum said, but Facebook said, I saw in this Facebook group that this guy got custom tunes and his truck made 900 horsepower overnight. Not true. But it's the mentality. You can fight it or you can embrace it. If you own a diesel shop and you don't have the ability to write or do custom tuning for your customers, you're losing out on a massive chunk of revenue, which we were just discussing. That's unbelievably valuable because a lot of times what that customer will do is they'll get their tuner, they love it, and after 6-8 months of that honeymoon phase, they feel like, they don't feel like the throttle response is as good as it was. Now they want custom tunes, and then they get their custom tunes, and they're like, well, now my injectors went out, and I need custom tunes for my injectors. That's a thing. If you can do that in-house, you just passed every diesel shop in town. If you cannot do that in-house, somebody else can, and they will find that somebody else. So being able to tune in-house is unbelievably valuable. If that's a class that's available to you, take it. If there's manufacturers like Fast Fuel Systems, Power Hungry Performance, where they have an authorized dealer program, get on board. Once you're on that program, that manufacturer is sending you free customers. Customer types in their zip code on that manufacturer's website. They send them to the closest dealer. If you're not there, you're losing money. If you're there, you're getting money. So any kind of program like that that you can be a part of, especially for a small one-time fee, do it. It'll pay you in spades over the years.
Love it. Thanks, Vinny. So, last word of advice to those folks who are thinking about joining the Diesel Alliance community, thinking about what coming back.
Come back. Well, join first of all. That's the big thing is come and join us, and then I hope you have a reason to come back after you know engaging the community. One of the big things that I see as an issue in the industry is there's a lot of gatekeeping, and I don't think that benefits anyone. And the whole point of this is to help support each other and promote the industry as a whole and benefit the industry as a whole. And I really wholeheartedly believe that that's why you should come and participate in TDA. That's why I'm here.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to a live Q&A. Next, if you're watching the replay, the next one is in 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we're going to bring value. We're going to help you take your shop to the next level. Don't figure it out on your own. Tap into the Diesel Alliance community. Have a good night.